Once in a while a deck comes along that's so strong and so powerful and so metagame warping that there's only one way to deal with it. To simply pretend it doesn't exist. Now I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say I've got my tinfoil hat on, that it's all a conspiracy theory, but MTG Goldfish isn't reporting this deck. It can't be found on the mothership deck dumps. There's no subreddit for it, there's no discussion on the source, and no one at Channel Fireball is writing about it. I asked Trevor down at my local game store about it. He's the kind of player that always knows what's up. He told me once that he invested hard into Goblin Rabble Masters during spoiler season when no one else knew what was good, and he told me that he bought a condo with the money that he made from it, and I believe him. Why would he lie? When I asked him if he'd heard of the deck, he sort of just nodded. He didn't make eye contact either. I don't actually know whether he meant he had seen it or whether he was agreeing to something someone else in the room had said. Come to think of it, he's a bit of a cunt. So much like its spiritual predecessors like Mono Red Tron, Mono Blue Minotaurs, and Electric Sex Pants Vindaloo, this deck is being shrugged off and ignored. Ignorance is bliss. The competitive scene has been known to put its head in the sand before, but this cannot continue. People need to respect this deck. Some people need to get in at the ground floor while they still can, for the low price of just 4 LEDs. This, you bunch of primitive piss ants, is quite possibly the most powerful combo deck in all of Magic. This is Oops All Memes. It is such a hugely complicated and powerful deck that I can't possibly explain every line and card rationale in one simple deck tech. It would take me too fucking long. And to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Oops All spells on even the simplest level. The strategy is extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of theoretical physics, most of the lines will go over a typical player's head. There's also the deck's nihilistic outlook and philosophy, which is pretty deeply woven into its very fabric. It draws heavily from Narodnaya, Volya literature, for instance. The true fans and respecters of this deck understand this stuff. They have the intellectual capacity to truly appreciate the depths of these philosophical through lines, to realise that they're not just win conditions, they say something deep about life itself. As a consequence, people who dislike Oops or memes are truly idiots. Of course they wouldn't appreciate, for instance, the humour of the deck's existential motto, it is better to be lucky than it is to be good, which itself is a cryptic reference to Turgenev's Russian epic, The Big Bang Theory. Bazinga! I'm smirking right now, just to imagine one of those simpletons scratching their heads in confusion as sometimes genius mechanical possibilities unfold itself on their screens or on their playmats in front of them at FNM. What fools! How I pity them. And yes, by the way, I do now have an Oops All Memes tattoo, and no, you cannot see it. It's reserved for the eyes of the ladies only, and even then they have to demonstrate they have an IQ within 5 points of my own, preferably lower, beforehand. Nothing personal, kid. Right, let's play some fucking Magic. Before I do though, this video as always is brought to you by my Patreon supporters, and this deck in particular was brewed heavily by my top tier patrons, what I call my splicers. We get together once a week to chat shit and sometimes talk about Magic. Some weeks it's all gravy and biscuits and shit like that. Others it's wrecking the legacy metagame from the inside out. Links to my Patreon in the description below, just $2 a month to join the lowest level to get access to the Discord. Channel Fireball also sponsor the show here, and if you like what you see here, you can use the code KENOBI at checkout to support the channel and tell them who sent you. And lastly, of course, our other big sponsor here is Ultra Pro, the makers of my favourite EDH decks boxes, the Saturn Towers, and the producers of all the sweet official MTG merchandise. If you want to see more of their beautiful stuff, you should probably follow me on Instagram where I post about it. But be warned, I also post a lot of hot, steamy Warhammer 2. It's game 1, this hand has 2 Mox Opals in it, those were banned in Modern so we can't possibly lose. On the end of my turn 2, before we can play the disgustingly powerful and long-time banned Stoneforge Mystic, our opponent crop rotates a land into a Dark Depths, takes all the counters off with the Vampire Hexmage, and spawns a 2020 Flying Avatar. No, God! I have to admit that blindsided me a little. We will be ready for the next one. We mulligan to 5. We have an LED and an Entomb which will allow us to fetch up Echo of Aeons and put it into our graveyard so we can flash it back and use the LED and redraw an opening 7 and undo some of the damage that the mulligans and variants has done to us. I do ask our opponent not to scoop too early as I'm recording, this way we can get some good footage.
Fatality.
Well, fuck. Second time's a charm, am I right? Crab from our opponent. we get to play a tapped modal double face land and pass the turn back. A second crab from our opponent. They're milling themselves with the intention of Hogacking us to death, or perhaps milling us out with Hogak, or just making a million zombies off a bridge from below synergistic engines. We play our second land tapped. All we need to do is get to turn 3, fading any hand disruption. We can then bolt ourselves with the modal double face land here, and ritual out a balustrade spy, and go to absolute fucking town. Just go wild, hog wild, just ride our opponent like a fucking bull. Cabal therapy?
No!
Oh,
God, please,
fuck.
no!
Our opponent pauses
no!
for a little bit here, considering their options, and eventually names Balustrade Spy, the exact thing that's in our hand. Now, this might seem like an insanely good soul read or blinded name from our opponent, but our lands do kind of scream that we're some kind of Belcher or Oops or Spells variant. I think our opponent's three choices were Belcher, Balustrade Spy, or the other spy that I can never remember the fucking name of unless it's right in front of me. For the record, we're both a Belcher deck and an Oops or Spells Balustrade Spy deck, because when you're playing Battle of Wits, you can play as many fucking combos as you want. In essence, they had a 33% chance of naming the right thing, and they got there. In short...
Oh my God. I am never gonna recover from this.
They sack a crab, taking our recruiter, which can go get us another spy as well with the flashback of the Cabal therapy. This game continues, but we ain't doing much except drawing a copy of our own Battle of Wits. Yeah, like I said, we're a Battle of Wits deck too. You'll see it, give me time. I just need to go off and you'll see it. In the next game, I keep a hand that is literally 1 black mana for popping off on turn 2, so we have a good few modal double face cards that flip into black, producing lands in our deck. We also have Mana Morphose and Wild Cantors and Lotus Petals as all live draws that get us to that all-important 4th black mana. We have 4 red mana, 2 from the wall itself and 2 from the ritual, so it's just 1 black mana we need from an untapped source or a conversion source, and then we can pop off more than my arsehole does after a rather dodgy kebab. We draw a second Balustrade Spy, which isn't ideal, but it gives us redundancy against all hand attack except for Cabal Therapy. Naturally, our opponent casts Cabal Therapy. Now, they might blind name one of the others, but of course they fucking don't, and they just take both our spies, and we die horribly, slow, painful deaths to 1,000 small 2/2s and 2/1s. Fuck my life. A noble hierarch from our opponent, we lead with a tap land and pass back. They resolve a Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. That's going to make the mana acceleration and the Charbelcher a lot more difficult to pull off. We play a freshly drawn Aethervar, which in 3 turns can deploy our Undercity Informer, leave mana up to activate, and leave mana up to cast 1 or 2 spells through a Thalia. Everything's honestly looking pretty Kenobi. They then abrupt decay our Var because they are a fucking monster. We get slapped over and over as we play tap land after tap land, trying my hardest to not damage myself off of the bolt lands in order to maneuver myself into position where we can untap with a Charbelcher and blow our opponent's face off with the People's Cannon. We even draw a blocker in the shape of this Cephalid here, a card that is traditionally part of the Cephalid Breakfast combo, which infinitely mills your library into your graveyard by constantly re-equipping a free equipment in order to trigger its self-mill clause and enable dumb graveyard-based combos. Things are looking good. We slam the 5-mana Goblin Charbelcher and pass back. All we need to do is untap with it, and we can blow their fucking tits off. They do not have lethal on board, even if they have plowshares for our blocker. We have to just untap and cannon and win. Hold, stay on target. They begin to tap their mana and my arsehole tightens to 5p territory. What's this? A green Sun Zenith for a Collector Ooth? A Quasali Pride Mage? A main deck Pithing Needle because the world hates me? No, it's a Note of Autumn to blow up our Belcher. Well, shit. In game 2, we mulligan to this, and then we get Thought Seized.
No! God, please, no! 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 Ho, 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 it's magic!
I've got a good feeling about this round, okay? They do Once Upon a Time to find a forest, and we lead with a tap land and a petal. We have the spy in hand and an untapped land for turn 3 to go on. Green Sun Zenith for them finds a Dryad Arbor from our opponents. This could be Maverick, Elves, or a time-travelling Infect player lost from around the year 2016. Play a tap land and pass the turn back, and we stay calm and we stay cool. We don't want to give away that we're about to end this opponent's whole career. Elvish Visionary from our opponent, drawing a card. They then drop a Cradle and cast a Heritage Druid and pass back. Then we draw another spy. Much like buses, or incredibly toxic, fluffy-haired leaders leaning into nationalism and racist sentiment to attain power, you're expecting 1 but 2 come along at once. Pog Champ. We slam the spy, target ourselves, crack our knuckles and get ready to go fucking wild, but they scoop. Fuck! The fuck fuck? Why won't you let me show the world the true power of Oops All Memes? They're in on it. This person's in on the conspiracy. Bayou into Nettle Sentinel from our opponent. We lead tap land. They play a Wildwood Symbiote into a Cradle. Oh shit.
I'm in danger!
We play a Bolt land, bolt ourselves, play a Tinder Wall, make a Pentad Prism and cast a Stoneforge Mystic looking up a Shunko or whatever the fuck it's called, which will infinitely mill us with the Cephalid next turn that we have in hand. That's breakfast, bitch. They Glimpse of Nature and then cast a Heritage Druid. Okay, it's time to buckle up. Another Sentinel from them. They Green Suns for an Elvish Visionary off the mana from the Elves. Draw a card, bounce it back to hand, make more mana before doing so again, and they recast it. They Natural Order under a Crater Hoof Behemoth, and I'm not a mathematician, but I think they hit us for approximately a fucktillion of damage. Okay, it's game 3, it's game on. Like, if we were wearing a red baseball cap, I'd turn it backwards and I'd squat down and squint my eyes in some sort of battle pose, and then I'd probably let out a little fart. We mulligan. We mulligan. We settle. Because sometimes even the universe is trying to get you down. We lead tap land, they go Green Sunners for an Arbor, and then we pass back to us, we play another tap land. We entomb an Echo of Aeons into the graveyard here. Our only real, like, accelerant out here is drawing an LED, and our opponent probably knows that too. Before we even entomb, they cast a Collector Oof. Now these can be sideboard or mainboard in the Elves decks, and they're good against our LED plan, they're good against Chrome Moxes, Char Belchers, Petals. It's just pretty good against this style of deck. After the Oof, we entomb for the Echo, we untap and we draw an LED. Yeah, that hurts. We play out the LED and the Cephalid. Next turn we can actually just raw cast the 3-mana flashback of the Eons anyway. On their turn they double glimpse a rare sight, like a double rainbow. They do this because they know we can flash it back anyway, so they want to dump out their hand onto the board as wide as possible without holding anything back. They cast a Nettle Sentinel and then play nothing. We draw a Vial, kiss it goodbye. It's Echo's time. We spin the wheel and end up with a hand that can cast and activate an Undercity Badman next turn.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.
But wait, the Elves players get to go first. They Green Suns for 1 and they grab a Heritage Druid. They cast Wildwood Symbiote. They cast 2 more Elvish Visionaries thanks to all the fucking mana. They bounce one back to hand thanks to the Symbiote and play it again. Elvish Visionary Storm count is at 3. Another Green Sun Zenith gets them a Scoos. Clever girl. Scoos has access to 3 activations here as they can untap a creature in our turn with Wildwood Symbiote and tap 3 Elves for 3 mana. I assume the size of my deck's raw big dick energy will be enough to brutalize its way through these Scoos activations through sheer fucking volition, through sheer size. Like, what the fuck do you even take here? The great thing about having a deck this size and complex is that it might actually be borderline surgical extraction proof because it's so confusing. Right, let's do it.
Execute Order 66.
Sexy Jellyfish enter from stage left as we mill ourselves. We Cabal Therapy and realise I forgot to add the other 2 Bridge from Below to the deck before I joined these games because I'm a fucking idiot. Therapy reveals that we dodged the Thoughtseize bullet last turn. Fuck, that was pretty close. They make 3 green mana in response to our first Dread return and eat the target, which is one of our Sphinxes. We pass through the second main phase, forcing them to commit to using the mana now or forever hold their peace. It looks like they actually just decide to not do so. They get bored or they give up. Like, they can't be fucking bothered, and I do not blame them either in the face of this nonsense. So I get ready to pop the fuck off. I ready a dab in the chamber, but they scoop again. No, fuck. No, fuck. They must be in the pocket of Big Watsy, hiding the truth of the real Legacy metagame from the public. Fuck. Okay. We're going to do one more, but this one is going to be a goldfish. I need to get this info out there, and our opponents are scooping because they're in on the conspiracy. They don't want people to see how powerful this deck is. Ironically, in the goldfish match, our hand is the best it ends up being all video. Go figure. We lost the dice roll and we draw a Chrome Mox. We go tap land, LED, Petal and Chrome Mox, exiling a black spell. On turn 2, we grab Echo of Aeons from the board with our Wish and crack the LED to cast it. On turn 3, with our full hand, we slam the Spy, flipping our library into our graveyard. Because where we're going, Marty, we don't need a fucking library. Moto almost crashes. We also make some sexy jellyfish. We need more bodies to make sure we can really pop off, so we dread return a Sun Titan. Every body we sack should give us 4 zombies, thanks to the bridges that I've now put into the deck, but the goldfish option on MTGO is broken, because of course it fucking is. And our bridges get exiled because, and I quote, a creature went to an opponent's graveyard. We don't have an opponent, so they don't have a graveyard, but you go off, King. You go off. Sun Titan comes in, resurrects a phantasmal image, copying itself, which gets a glass pool mimic, which copies the Sun Titan again, which gets another mimic, and then that becomes another Titan, then another mimic becomes another Titan, and so on and so on. Once Once the loop is complete, we grab an LED which allows us to reset our graveyard with the Echo of Aeons once we are done playing with our own junk. We then dread return a Treasure of the Troves, which then casts a Refurbish, which puts 4 Animate Deads and 2 Battle of Wits into play. We then reanimate 3 more Treasure of the Troves and 1 Hornet's Nest. The first treasure casts Expropriate to grab us 1 or 2 extra turns. The next one casts a Stuffy Doll, because if there isn't a Stuffy Doll, is it even worth making a video about? We get 4 Vengevines coming back at this point because there wasn't enough moving parts if you ask me. The next treasure casts an Archangel's Light, which is the best mythic in Innistrad block. Like, fuck Liliana or the Veil. Pick yours up now. Hoard these fucking things, okay? Don't let the next generation of Magic players get in on this before you do, okay? You will regret this. You can finance your next house purchase through the accumulation of Archangel's Lights. And no, I didn't buy anyone out. That would be ethically inconsiderate of me to do so. I don't have stocks in this. Just bear in mind, this mythic is gonna blow up. It's gonna explode. Mark my fucking words. We gained 503 life and cancel the 4th reanimation as the target is now gone because sequencing correctly is for cowards and members of the clergy, and I ain't no fucking priest. We then pass to our next appropriate turn, triggering Battle of Wits, and we win on the spot. See? It's fucking simple.